when I do something that my spouse doesn't like, I may not know it to be a mistake per se right off the bat, because it might be something that I've learned that she didn't like, or that she really didn't agree with me doing or saying. So technically, you might not always know, or might not always feel like it was your mistake that you made knowingly. But this is the key. After your spouse indicates to you that it was something that they didn't like, or that it was something that they felt was wrong, then you have to figure out, okay, why did you feel that way? How can I help you to not feel that way anymore? Or how can you help me to not make the mistake again, so that we don't have to be in this position again? So it's really, I'm gonna be honest, you gotta be a mature person when you're married to get through things, because you have to be It's Neil
and Diamond,
and this is the Heaven Tribe Podcast. This is a Christian podcast where we encourage people to build a stronger and more personal relationship with God, y'all.
And if you want to see more content like this, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.
All right, so we continuing on with our series.
Right. In Commitment and Marriage, this is part 11. We're going to discuss another chapter out of my husband's book, Was Marriage Right for Me, where you can find on Amazon, and discuss chapter 4. Mm-hmm. You ready?
Yeah.
Neil, in chapter 4 of your book, you titled it, Mistakes Will Be Made. Mm-hmm. What was the reason for that?
The title, Mistakes Will Be Made, is simply a way for me to explain to the listeners and to the people that's reading the book, the readers, that in marriage, nobody is perfect. We are all human beings. We all make mistakes. The thing about marriage is that you got to work through those mistakes knowing that we're going to make them. I mean, we're born into the world, we're born into sin, and it's in our nature, it's human nature to do wrong things. It's not necessarily say that, we're always going to be wrong. No, the goal is to try to be the best person we could be, but just knowing that mistakes in your marriage will be made, and to establish that mindset, it'll help you to get over and to get through mistakes that are made by the steps that I outline in the chapter.
So I'm pretty sure in the book you talk about some of your mistakes, but we're not going to talk about that here. Y'all got to go read the book.
That's
okay?
a fact. Yeah. There's mistakes in there.
Go purchase the book. Yeah. But in the mistakes that you made, how were you able to move forward and move past those things in your marriage? Was it easy? Was it hard? Did it take a long time? Are you still working through it?
In a marriage, we all make mistakes, and the key thing about being in marriage is that you have to know that the person is human. You have to be able to accept their faults. You have to be able to work out your problems. Not just working out the problem, but know that you have to separate the mistake from the person. You know, the person made the mistake, but it was a reason that the person made the mistake. So get into the root of the mistake and not looking at the actual mistake or the action that happened, but why it happened. Why did this go wrong? Why did this person do this? Why did this person say that at this time, knowing this? These are some of the questions we got to answer to understand, okay, so how next time, before I do it, can I change my way of thinking to not do it again? Not necessarily stand on the problem, like, I can't believe you did that, I will never forgive you for doing that. But why do you think you did that? You know, trying to answer the questions of why that happened helps you to get over it and to prepare you better going forward. Not looking at what happened, but going forward, so this doesn't happen anymore. What do I need to do? What questions do I need to ask? What mentality do I need to have to make sure and ensure that I can limit that happening again? And then having a supportive spouse to have the mentality to not just go on and over about the mistake, but to accept it and then to try to move through the mistake with you and then grow with you to learn from the mistake. Because sometimes people make mistakes not because of their own self, but because of their spouse. It could be geared because their spouse isn't doing something or may not be showing something, or I get in depth with it in the book. I really want y'all to go check it out, but just know that it's multiple reasons why people make mistakes in marriage. The thing about it is, though, how do we get over it so that it doesn't continue to happen and we don't dwell on the action, but focus on the solution and how it made us feel to get past it.
So do you believe in some of the mistakes that you did make that they were mistakes? So what I mean by that is sometimes we can do a certain thing or be in a certain behavior and not even see it as a problem. In some of the mistakes that you did make, did you see that they were problems to you, even though they may have been mistakes or they have caused grief, which we're going to talk about the scripture, to your spouse?
Well, I'm going to be real with you. Sometimes, as a man, and me personally, only speaking about me and in my marriage, when I do something that my spouse doesn't like, I may not know it to be a mistake per se right off the back, because it might be something that I've learned that she didn't like or that she really didn't agree with me doing or saying. So technically, you might not always know or might not always feel like it was your mistake that you made knowingly. But this is the key. After your spouse indicates to you that it was something that they didn't like or that it was something that they felt was wrong, then you have to figure out, okay, why did you feel that way? How can I help you to not feel that way anymore? Or how can you help me to not make the mistake again so that we don't have to be in this position again? So it's really, I'm going to be honest, you got to be a mature person when you're married to get through things, because you have to be, you got to take the ego away sometimes. Like, you cannot just be like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. Well, this is my house. Or you got to take that ego, but set that ego to the side, because you're not going to get past something or get over something and then your relationship build and get better and better if you can't accept the fact that somebody that you're with didn't like something and you too big of a person to work it out or change it. So it takes a really big person to acknowledge the fact that their spouse didn't like something and to change it so that their spouse is happy with the change that you made, and going forward, it doesn't happen again. It takes a big person.
So the title again is Mistakes Will Be Made, and you use the scripture, if anyone has caused grief, he has not so much grieved me as he has grieved all of you. To some extent, not to put it too severely. The punishment inflicted on him by the majority is sufficient. Now instead, you ought to forgive and comfort him, so that he will not be overwhelmed by excessive sorrow. I urge you, therefore, to reaffirm your love for him. Another reason I wrote you was to see if you would stand the test and be obedient in everything. Anyone you forgive, I also forgive. 2 Corinthians 2, 5-10. So in your marriage, in mistakes being made, whether from your point of view or on your end or your spouse's end, how are you able to show forgiveness and love in a mistake that your spouse did? Because in the book you talk about your mistakes, but how are you able to forgive your spouse about mistakes that they may have done? Was that an easy thing for you to recognize love and forgiveness in the beginning?
In the beginning, it wasn't. I'm not going to lie. If my spouse did something, it was hard for me to kind of get over it. Eventually, I did, because I learned that, again, we are all human and we make mistakes, especially after I caused mistakes in our marriage, too. Being together and married for 12 years, it's going to be a number of mistakes that's made. But time heals all wounds. You know, if something happens in your relationship against you, you might feel bad in the moment, but you got to realize, again, where did it stem from? How can we change it and get past it? I don't like to dwell on, me personally in my marriage, I don't tend to dwell on bad things. I want to get past it, get over it, so we can continue on with bettering each other. You know, it's not benefiting me to keep thinking about something bad that happened that I didn't like that you did. Once I communicate to you that it was something that I didn't like, and you acknowledge it and you apologize, and then the next time it might happen again, or even another time after that it might happen again. But eventually you do, through remembrance of the conversations, you do get over it. It takes time. It's not always you can't change somebody if it's something that you don't like about them or a mistake that they made right away. So I think time will help you to get over certain things. Also, knowing that they're just human. I mean, I'm gonna make a mistake tomorrow my wife ain't gonna like. I mean, let's be real, but she knows I'm human. That's who we are. I'm not saying that is a leeway out of, you just doing what you shouldn't be doing, but we are on a constant battle with our flesh every day on things that aren't in God's eyes good things. So we have to keep that in our minds, that we're growing, we're changing every day, and we're not who we want to be at this point. We're getting there, but it takes time. Over time, you will realize that you're not going to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. So
all right.
That's how I would recommend somebody to try to accept a mistake that their spouse has made. Just time will heal the wound. Just know that they're human, and you'll get through it. Stay committed, though. Stay committed.
That's all the questions that I have. Any last words you want to wrap us up with?
I will say, lastly, just, mistakes are just ways to learn. When you make a mistake, it's a learning experience. And you're never going to stop learning in your marriage. I know even my grandparents who've been married over 50 years, they still learning about themselves, So it's important to realize that we're not going to know everything all the time. When your spouse is feeling a certain kind of way, there's so many different things that go on in a person's head and their mind. You're not always going to be on one accord. Things are going to happen. Mistakes will be made, and you just got to learn. It's a constant learning. Marriage is learning. Marriage is definitely learning. But it's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. It's a good thing. I love being married, and it's just, you got to learn. That's what I'm going to leave y'all with. Make sure you tune into the next video. My wife is going to also share her idea of mistakes and how she felt about it in the next episode. Stay tuned.